Lana Russell almost ignored the call at 12:43 a.m. because the woman crying on the other end had once destroyed her life. Lana? Vanessa Hale sobbed so hard she could barely breathe. "He's doing to me what he did to you." Lana stared out the window of her tiny Chicago apartment, the city lights blurring behind tears she thought she'd buried months ago. Cody Whitmore had cheated on her, humiliated her, replaced her, and married his mistress like 13 years of marriage meant nothing. Now that same mistress was whispering through broken sobs, "I think he's going to ruin me too." For a long moment, Lana said nothing. Then she answered coldly, "If you want my help, Vanessa, bring me proof." And suddenly, the woman Cody thought he had broken forever became the last person standing between him and destruction. If you were Lana, would you help the woman who helped destroy your marriage? Or would you let karma finish the job? Let me know in the comments before we continue. Before Cody Whitmore destroyed Lana Russell's life, people used to look at them like they were the kind of couple other marriages secretly envied. The Whitmores lived in a sprawling brick home in the wealthy suburbs north of Chicago, where the lawns were manicured with obsessive precision and every holiday looked like a magazine spread. Their kitchen had marble countertops imported from Italy. Their dining room had hosted judges, CEOs, senior attorneys, and ambitious politicians who laughed too loudly at Cody's jokes and complimented Lana's hosting skills as if elegance came naturally to women like her. But elegance had cost her everything. Lana met Cody when he was still drowning in student loans and impossible dreams. Back then, he had messy brown hair, cheap suits, and gratitude in his eyes every time she brought him coffee during late nights at law school. "You believe in me more than I believe in myself," he used to tell her. And she had. God, she had. She worked 2 jobs during Cody's final year of law school while he studied for the bar exam. She edited his resumes, memorized names of senior partners before networking events, and learned how to smile through exhausting dinners with people who barely remembered her name. She became the kind of wife powerful men loved bringing into rooms because she made everything around them feel warmer, softer, more polished. At first, Cody appreciated her for it. Then eventually he started expecting it. And after that, he started resenting her for it. Lana didn't notice the shift immediately because emotional neglect never arrives like a car crash. It arrives quietly, slowly, like water flooding a basement 1 invisible inch at a time. It started with small things. Cody stopped kissing her goodbye before work, stopped asking about her day, stopped touching her absent-mindedly while passing through the kitchen. Then came the late nights. Client dinners, emergency meetings, Arthur needs revisions before tomorrow morning. There was always an explanation. Cody always had explanations. And Lana wanted desperately to believe them because women like her were taught that loyalty meant endurance. So she endured. Even when Cody started checking his phone during dinner, even when he flipped it face down whenever she walked into the room, even when his smile became something rehearsed instead of real. One snowy December evening, Lana stood in the foyer, adjusting the sleeves of her black dress before the annual Bennett and Cole Holiday Gala. The diamonds around her neck had been an anniversary gift from Cody 3 years earlier, back when he still looked at her like she mattered. "You almost ready?" she asked gently. Cody barely glanced up from his phone. "Yeah." No compliment, no smile, no "You look beautiful." Just, yeah. Something inside her quietly cracked. The gala was held inside a luxury hotel downtown, glowing with gold chandeliers and old money elegance. Attorneys in tailored tuxedos floated across the ballroom with women dressed in silk and diamonds. Jazz music echoed softly beneath the hum of expensive conversations. Lana knew how to survive rooms like this. Smile, stand straight, laugh when appropriate, never reveal discomfort. She spent most of the evening charming clients beside Cody while he soaked in attention like sunlight. He was handsome in the dangerous way. Certain men were handsome not because of perfection, but because confidence made people ignore the cruelty underneath. Arthur Bennett, the senior partner of Cody's firm, clapped him on the shoulder proudly. "Whitmore's headed for partner before 40, he announced to the group. Everyone congratulated Cody. Lana smiled on cue. Then she saw her. Vanessa Hale. Young, beautiful, sharp-eyed. She couldn't have been older than 28. Vanessa stood near the bar in a fitted emerald dress that hugged her body like it had been sewn directly onto her skin. Men noticed her instantly. Women noticed her too. But Vanessa only noticed Cody. Lana felt it immediately. That invisible electric current between two people trying not to look obvious. Cody walked toward Vanessa too quickly, too comfortably. "Lana," he said when they approached. "This is Vanessa Hale, one of our new associates." Vanessa smiled sweetly and extended her hand. "It's so nice to finally meet you." Finally. Such a small word, but it lodged itself deep into Lana's chest. "You too," Lana answered carefully. Vanessa's perfume smelled expensive and familiar somehow. Then Lana's eyes dropped, and her stomach twisted violently. Vanessa was wearing Cody's watch. Not similar, not identical. His. The silver Rolex Lana had saved for months to buy him after he made senior attorney. For one horrifying second, Lana wondered if she was mistaken. But she wasn't. The tiny scratch near the clasp was still there from the day Cody dropped it on their driveway. Vanessa noticed Lana staring. For half a second, guilt flashed across her face. Then it disappeared. Cody smoothly stepped between them. "Arthur wants to introduce me to someone," he said casually, touching Vanessa's lower back for the briefest moment before pulling away. But Lana saw it. And worse, Vanessa saw that Lana saw it. The rest of the evening blurred into noise. Champagne glasses, fake laughter, the suffocating pressure behind Lana's ribs. By the time they drove home through the icy Chicago streets, silence filled the car so heavily it felt alive. Finally, Lana spoke softly. "Why was Vanessa wearing your watch?" Cody's jaw tightened instantly. "What?" "The Rolex." "She had your watch." He laughed once. Sharp, dismissive. "Jesus, Lana. That's not an answer. I left it at the office weeks ago, so she just borrowed it." "You're being ridiculous." There it was. That tone. The one that made her feel irrational for noticing things that were obviously real. Lana turned toward the frozen window. "I'm not trying to fight. Well, it sure feels like it lately." Lately. As if she had become exhausting. As if intuition was inconvenience. When they got home, Cody headed upstairs without another word. Lana stayed alone in the kitchen, staring at the dark reflection in the window above the sink. She looked tired. Not old, not unattractive, just emotionally exhausted. Like someone constantly trying to earn affection that used to be freely given. Upstairs, she heard Cody's phone vibrate, then vibrate again, and again. A cold feeling crawled through her stomach. Before she could stop herself, Lana walked quietly into their bedroom. Cody was in the shower. Steam fogged the bathroom glass. His phone sat charging on the nightstand. Face up. Lit. One message preview glowed against the darkness. From Vanessa. "I missed last night already." Lana stopped breathing. The world didn't explode dramatically. No screaming violins. No cinematic breakdown. Just silence. Heavy, soul-crushing silence. And somewhere behind the bathroom door, the man she had loved for 13 years kept humming softly in the shower like he hadn't just destroyed her entire reality. Lana didn't sleep that night. She lay beside Cody in the dark, staring at the ceiling while his breathing remained slow and peaceful beside her. Every few minutes, she replayed the message in her mind. "I missed last night already. Not last week, not last month. Last night. The cruelty of it hollowed her out from the inside. Around 3 in the morning, Cody rolled over in his sleep and draped an arm across her waist, automatically, like muscle memory was still pretending they were in love. Lana nearly burst into tears. Because somehow, that hurt more than the cheating. The familiarity, the normalcy, the fact that he could betray her and still sleep comfortably beside her afterward. By sunrise, she had convinced herself maybe there was still an explanation. Maybe emotional affairs looked worse than they were. Maybe she was overreacting. Women like Lana were trained to doubt themselves before doubting men they loved. Especially men like Cody Whitmore. Successful men, respected men, men the world automatically believed. The next morning, Cody walked into the kitchen, already dressed for work, expensive cologne filling the air. He loosened his cufflinks while scanning emails on his phone. Lana stood at the counter pouring coffee with trembling hands. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Cody sighed immediately, that annoyed sigh, the one people used before dealing with inconveniences. "About what now?" Lana swallowed hard. "I saw the message from Vanessa." For the first time, he looked up. Not guilty, not ashamed, just irritated. "You went through my phone?" "It was on the screen." "That's not the point." Lana stared at him in disbelief. "So, there is something happening." Cody rubbed his jaw slowly like she was exhausting him already. "She's a coworker. Coworkers don't text married men saying they miss last night. She had too much to drink after the gala. I gave her a ride home." Lana's chest tightened. And nothing. "Then why are you lying to me?" His expression hardened instantly. "I'm not doing this before work." "Doing what?" "This." He gestured toward her vaguely. "The interrogation." Lana felt heat rush into her face. "I'm your wife, and you're acting paranoid." There it was again. Paranoid. Crazy without saying crazy. Cody grabbed his coffee and keys. "You need to stop creating problems where there aren't any." Then he kissed her forehead casually before leaving, like he hadn't just detonated a grenade in the middle of their marriage. The front door closed softly behind him. Lana stood frozen in the kitchen long after his car disappeared. Because the terrifying part wasn't the possibility that he was cheating. It was how skilled he had become at making her feel guilty for noticing. The following week became unbearable. Cody grew colder with every passing day. He stayed late at work almost every night. When Lana texted, replies came hours later. Busy, in meetings, talk later. Their home no longer felt like a marriage. It felt like a hotel occupied by two strangers pretending not to resent each other. Then came Diane Whitmore's family dinner. Lana considered canceling, but Diane would weaponize that too. So on Saturday evening, Lana put on a cream-colored sweater dress, reapplied lipstick twice to cover how pale she looked, and drove with Cody to his mother's estate outside the city. The Whitmore house always made Lana uncomfortable. It was immaculate in a way that didn't feel warm. Every room looked untouched, like a museum dedicated to wealth and judgment. Diane greeted Cody with a kiss and Lana with a tight smile. "Lana," she said coolly, "you look tired." Not hello. Not how are you. Just tired. Dinner began stiffly. Cody spent most of the evening on his phone beneath the table, while Diane discussed charity events and social gossip with surgical cruelty disguised as sophistication. Then halfway through dessert, Diane set down her wine glass and smiled thinly at Lana. "You know," she said casually, "marriage changes when a woman stops making herself interesting." Lana blinked slowly. "I'm sorry." Diane shrugged delicately. "Men are visual creatures. Ambitious too. A wife has to evolve with her husband." Cody kept eating, didn't defend her, didn't even look uncomfortable. Lana stared at him in disbelief. "Cody!" He finally glanced up lazily. "What, are you seriously not going to say anything?" He exhaled sharply. "My mother's just talking." "No?" Lana whispered. "She's insulting me." Diane smiled into her wine. Well, if honesty feels insulting. Something inside Lana cracked violently. Years. Years of trying to earn love from people who only valued her when she made their lives easier. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. A few moments later, Diane's housekeeper entered the dining room. "Miss Hale is here." Lana's stomach dropped. Vanessa walked into the room wearing a fitted camel coat and polished heels, her smile brightening instantly when she saw Cody. Too bright. Too familiar. "Oh my God." Vanessa laughed softly. "I'm so sorry. Am I interrupting?" Diane stood immediately. "Not at all, sweetheart." "Sweetheart." Lana felt physically sick. Vanessa approached the table gracefully. Cody looked tense now, not guilty. Nervous. Like a man worried about being caught rather than hurting someone. Vanessa smiled at Lana carefully. "Hi, Lana." Lana couldn't even form a response, because suddenly everything made sense. The dinners, the tension, Diane's cruelty. They all knew. Maybe not every detail, but enough. Enough to make Lana the punchline in rooms she wasn't inside. Vanessa sat beside Cody, naturally. Too naturally. At one point, she leaned close to whisper something into his ear, and Cody smiled before he could stop himself. That smile destroyed Lana more than anything else, because she hadn't seen that smile directed at her in over a year. Emily Carter texted halfway through dinner. "How's surviving dinner with Satan, Lana?" Nearly laughed hysterically. Instead, she typed, "I think Cody's cheating on me." Emily replied instantly. "Oh my God." "With who?" Lana looked up slowly. Vanessa was laughing at something Cody said, touching his arm lightly. Lana typed one word. Her. The drive home was suffocating. Finally, Lana spoke. "You brought her around? Your family?" Cody gripped the steering wheel harder. "She works with me. Your mother called her sweetheart. You're overanalyzing everything." "Am I?" Lana turned toward him. "Because it really feels like everyone knows something except me." Cody slammed the brakes harder than necessary at a red light. "You want to know what the problem is?" he snapped. Lana flinched. "The problem is, you've become obsessed with being a victim." Her mouth fell open. "I'm trying to save my marriage." "No," Cody said coldly. "You're trying to control me." The light turned green. He drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, after Cody fell asleep facing away from her, Lana quietly walked downstairs. Her hands trembled while searching through his coat pockets. Nothing. Then his briefcase, receipts, contracts, legal pads, and finally, a hotel invoice. Downtown Chicago, 2 guests, 3 nights. Lana covered her mouth instantly. Beneath it sat a jewelry receipt from Cartier. Diamond earrings. Not for her. Her vision blurred. For a moment, she genuinely thought she might throw up. Then something colder settled in instead. Not grief. Not denial. Certainty. Cody wasn't even hiding it carefully anymore. He was leaving pieces behind intentionally. Like some part of him enjoyed watching her slowly realize she was losing him. Upstairs, floorboards creaked softly. Lana froze. Cody stood at the top of the stairs, staring down at her, his face unreadable. "How long are you going to keep embarrassing yourself like this?" he asked quietly. Lana clutched the receipt tighter. "You're cheating on me." He didn't answer, didn't deny it, and somehow that silence hurt more than confession ever could. The next evening, Lana followed him. She hated herself for it. Hated the shaking in her hands as she parked half a block away from the luxury hotel downtown. Snow fell softly across the glowing city streets, while wealthy couples disappeared through revolving glass doors. Then Cody stepped out of his car, and Vanessa stepped out beside him, laughing, beautiful, intimate. Cody touched the small of her back possessively as they walked toward the hotel entrance together, like they belonged to each other already. And Lana sat alone in her car, watching her marriage die beneath the glow of expensive city lights. For several seconds, Lana couldn't move. Snow drifted softly across the windshield, while downtown Chicago glowed around her in cold, white light. Couples passed beneath street lamps wrapped in scarves and laughter living ordinary lives while hers collapsed in slow motion 200 feet away. Cody leaned down and kissed Vanessa outside the hotel entrance like he had nothing to hide anymore. Not rushed, not guilty, comfortable, intimate. The kind of kiss that belonged to people already emotionally committed to each other. Lana felt something inside her split wide open. Her first instinct was still denial. Maybe this was the first time. Maybe she was misunderstanding. Maybe. Then Vanessa smiled against his mouth, and Cody smiled back. Not the polite smile he gave Lana now. Not the exhausted smile. Not the distracted smile. This one was warm, alive. The same smile he used to give Lana years ago when they were young and broke, and still believed love made people loyal. Lana's hands started shaking violently. She should leave. She knew she should leave, but heartbreak makes people desperate for the final wound that kills hope completely. Before she could stop herself, she pushed open the car door and stepped into the freezing night air. Her heels clicked sharply against the sidewalk as she crossed the street. Neither of them noticed her immediately. Cody had his hand on Vanessa's waist, pulling her closer, while she laughed softly at something he whispered. Then Lana spoke. "Cody." Everything stopped. Vanessa froze first. Cody turned slowly, and for the first time since this nightmare began, real panic flashed across his face. "Lana." "Oh my God," Vanessa whispered, stepping backward instantly. Lana looked directly at Cody. Not Vanessa. Not the woman who helped destroy her marriage. Him. Because betrayal always belonged first to the person who made vows. The city noise faded into a dull blur around them. Lana's voice trembled despite every effort to control it. How long Cody glanced around, uncomfortably. "Not here." "No," she said, tears filling her eyes. "You don't get to decide where this conversation happens." Vanessa looked mortified now. "I should go?" "Yes," Lana snapped, without looking at her. "You should." Vanessa hesitated. Cody touched her arm gently. "It's okay." That tiny gesture nearly shattered Lana completely. The protectiveness, the tenderness. He hadn't touched Lana like that in months. Lana laughed once, but the sound came out broken. "Wow." "Lana." "How long?" she repeated. Cody exhaled heavily like this entire thing was inconvenient for him. "A few months." The honesty hit harder than lying would have. Lana stared at him in disbelief. "A few months," Vanessa looked down silently. Cody rubbed the back of his neck. "It wasn't planned." Lana's mouth fell open. "You're sleeping with another woman and you're talking to me like you accidentally bought the wrong groceries. Can we please not make a scene?" Something dark flashed across Lana's face, a scene she whispered. "You're standing outside a hotel with your mistress and you're worried about a scene." People were starting to glance at them now. Cody lowered his voice sharply. "You're emotional right now." There it was again. Emotional. The word he used whenever he wanted her reactions to sound irrational instead of human. Lana stepped closer. "Did you love me at all?" For 1 second, Cody looked uncomfortable. Then his expression hardened. "Of course I did." Did. Past tense. Lana physically flinched. Vanessa looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. "Lana," she said softly. "I never meant—" "Stop." Lana finally turned toward her. "Please don't insult me by pretending you're innocent." Vanessa looked away immediately, because there was no defense, no explanation, no version of this that made them good people. Cody straightened impatiently. "We should talk about this at home." "Home." The words suddenly sounded grotesque. Lana looked at him for a long moment, then quietly asked the question she already feared the answer to. Are you in love with her silence? The dangerous kind. Cody didn't answer immediately, and somehow that hesitation told her everything. Finally, he sighed. I didn't mean for this to happen. Lana nodded slowly. Because that was yes. That was absolutely yes. Tears slid down her cheeks before she could stop them. Vanessa looked guilty now. Truly guilty. But Lana couldn't even hate her fully yet, because all her devastation still centered around Cody. The man she built her entire adult life beside. The man who once cried while reading his vows to her. The man who promised she would never face life alone. Cody stepped toward her carefully. Lana, listen to me. She backed away immediately. No, don't do this dramatically. Dramatically. Lana almost laughed again. You cheated on your wife. You stopped listening to me years ago. Her face went blank. What? Cody ran a frustrated hand through his hair. You became stagnant. Every word felt like another knife. You stopped caring about yourself. Lana stared at him in horror. I supported your entire career, and I appreciated that. Appreciated. Past tense again, but eventually he continued. Coldly, it felt like you lost ambition. Lana couldn't believe what she was hearing. She worked, managed their home, hosted events, supported his career, sacrificed constantly for him. And somehow he had rewritten her devotion into failure. Vanessa whispered softly, Cody. But he kept going now, almost relieved to finally say it. You became predictable. The cruelty of that sentence landed harder than the affair itself. Because Lana suddenly understood something devastating, Cody didn't feel guilty. He felt justified, like she had failed some invisible test she never knew she was taking. Lana wiped her tears furiously. So that's it, she whispered. You cheat because I became boring. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Cody looked exhausted now. Look, I didn't want this to happen like this. But it happened. Silence. The hotel doors revolved behind them while wealthy strangers passed without understanding that a marriage was bleeding out on the sidewalk. Finally, Lana looked directly at Vanessa. And you? She asked, quietly. Was it worth it? Vanessa looked devastated, but she didn't answer because she already knew the truth. No woman truly wins a man who betrays someone else to keep her. Lana nodded slowly. Then she turned and walked away before either of them could stop her. Cody called behind her. She didn't turn around. Not when he followed her halfway down the sidewalk. Not when he grabbed her wrist gently. Not when he said her name softer this time. Please. She finally looked at him then. And Cody hesitated, because something had changed in her face. Not strength yet, not healing, but the first horrifying stage of emotional death. The moment love starts turning into grief. What now? She asked. Cody swallowed. I think we need space. The sentence hit like a physical blow. Space. Not remorse, not apology. Space. Lana stared at him for several long seconds, then nodded once. Okay. Cody looked surprised by how calm she sounded, but Lana wasn't calm. She was shattered beyond the point of visible emotion. By the time she drove home, her hands were numb from gripping the steering wheel too tightly. Cody arrived almost an hour later. Lana was sitting alone in the dark living room when he walked inside. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Cody loosened his tie slowly and said the words that finally killed whatever remained of their marriage. I want a divorce. Lana closed her eyes. There it was. The truth underneath all of it. Not confusion, not a mistake. Replacement. She opened her eyes slowly, and Vanessa Cody hesitated only briefly. I'm serious about her. The pain was so intense, Lana almost couldn't breathe. 13 years. Thrown away like expired paperwork. Cody sat across from her, avoiding eye contact now. I think it's best if we handle this quietly. Quietly, meaning protect his reputation, protect his career, protect his image. Even now, he cared more about appearances than destruction. Then came the final humiliation. I think it would be easier if you stayed somewhere else for a while. Lana stared at him. This is my home. It's temporary. No, she whispered. Apparently none of it was temporary, except me. For the first time all night, Cody looked uncomfortable, but not enough to stop. Never enough to stop. Upstairs, their bedroom still smelled like her perfume and his cologne mixed together. But downstairs, sitting across from the man she no longer recognized, Lana finally understood the terrible truth. Cody Whitmore hadn't suddenly become cruel. He had simply stopped pretending not to be. The divorce didn't destroy Lana all at once. It destroyed her professionally first, then socially, then financially, and finally privately in the quiet moments nobody else ever saw. 3 days after Cody asked for the divorce, Lana sat across from him inside a sleek conference room downtown, while his attorney slid paperwork across the polished table like they were negotiating a business merger instead of dismantling 13 years of marriage. Cody barely looked at her. That hurt too. Not because she wanted affection anymore, but because indifference after betrayal felt almost more humiliating than hatred. Given the circumstances, his attorney said smoothly, Mr. Whitmore believes an efficient and discreet settlement would benefit both parties. Discreet. Another word for silent. Lana stared at the paperwork numbly. The offer was insulting. Cody would keep the house, most investment accounts, his retirement portfolio, even partial ownership over business contacts Lana herself had helped cultivate through years of networking dinners and charity events. What exactly am I keeping? She asked quietly. The attorney smiled politely. The downtown condo. Lana blinked slowly. The condo Cody bought for Vanessa. Cody's jaw tightened instantly. It was purchased as an investment property. Oh, don't insult me now, Lana whispered. His attorney cleared his throat awkwardly. Cody finally looked at her directly. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Lana stared at him in disbelief. Harder, as if he were discussing traffic delays. I gave you 13 years of my life, and I supported you financially. The words hit her like a slap. Because there it was, the real Cody, the man underneath the charming smile and expensive suits, transactional, cold, calculating. Lana laughed softly, but tears burned behind her eyes. You really think money built our marriage? No, Cody answered calmly, but it maintained it. Something inside her physically recoiled. The meeting ended badly, mostly because Lana refused to sign anything, mostly because Cody's patience finally cracked. You're emotional, he snapped outside the building once they were alone. You need to think rationally. Lana turned toward him slowly. Did you ever love me? Cody looked exhausted by the question. I cared about you. Cared. Again, past tense. Then he delivered the sentence that haunted her for months afterward. But love isn't enough when two people outgrow each other. Outgrow. As if betrayal were evolution. As if loyalty were weakness. By the second week of separation, the rumors started spreading through their social circle. Quietly. Strategically. Lana noticed it first at a charity luncheon she had attended for years. Women who once hugged her warmly now gave her uncomfortable smiles. Conversations stopped when she approached tables. One woman awkwardly touched her arm and whispered, I'm sure Cody didn't mean for things to get messy. Messy. As though she were the problem. Not the affair. Not the betrayal. Not the humiliation. Then Emily Carter called one evening after hearing something at a dinner party. "You need to prepare yourself," Emily said carefully. "For what?" Emily hesitated. "Cody's telling people you became emotionally unstable." Lana went completely still. "What?" "He's saying the marriage had been unhappy for years, that you were controlling, depressed, difficult to live with." Lana felt physically sick. "That's not true." "I know." But the terrifying thing about men like Cody Whitmore was how believable they sounded. Successful men rarely looked like villains from the outside. They looked polished, respected, reliable. And women who cried afterward often looked unstable by comparison, especially when those women had been emotionally shattered behind closed doors for years. One afternoon, Lana walked into a cafe near downtown and froze when she saw Vanessa sitting with two women from Cody's law firm. Vanessa looked radiant, relaxed, happy. She wore a cream-colored coat Lana recognized instantly because Cody once said it was too expensive to justify. Apparently not anymore. One of the women noticed Lana standing there awkwardly. The entire table fell silent. Vanessa looked up slowly. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, Lana saw something unexpected flicker across Vanessa's face. Not triumph, discomfort, maybe even shame, but it vanished quickly. Lana turned around and walked out before anyone could say anything. Then she sat inside her car, gripping the steering wheel while sobs tore through her chest so violently she could barely breathe. Because humiliation wasn't just pain. It was erosion, the slow destruction of dignity, the feeling that everyone had witnessed your replacement before you did. Eventually, Emily forced Lana to contact a real divorce attorney. That was how Rebecca Sterling entered her life. Rebecca's office overlooked Lake Michigan, all glass walls and sharp minimalism. She was elegant in the intimidating way only certain women were: controlled, intelligent, impossible to manipulate. She listened silently while Lana explained everything. The affair, the gaslighting, the settlement offer. When Lana finished, Rebecca leaned back slightly. "Your husband underestimated you." Lana almost laughed bitterly. "No. He underestimated how much pain I could survive." Rebecca slid the financial documents closer. "Actually," she said calmly, "I think he underestimated how much evidence he left behind." Lana frowned. "What do you mean?" Rebecca tapped several highlighted transactions. "These transfers don't make sense." Cody had moved large amounts of money through multiple shell accounts over the last 2 years. At first, Lana barely understood what she was looking at. Then her stomach dropped. "He was hiding assets." Rebecca nodded. "Looks that way." Lana stared at the paperwork. The affair suddenly felt even uglier somehow, because Cody hadn't impulsively fallen in love. He had prepared, strategically, carefully, possibly for years. The realization devastated her. While she was still trying to save the marriage, Cody had already been planning his exit. Rebecca continued reviewing documents quietly. Then her expression sharpened slightly. What? Rebecca pointed toward another account. "This account shouldn't exist." Lana leaned closer. The account was connected to a consulting LLC she had never heard of. "Do you know what this is?" "No." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "Interesting." For the first time since entering the office, Lana felt something besides grief. Fear. Not fear of losing Cody anymore. Fear that she never truly knew him. A week later, Lana officially moved out of the house. Cody claimed it would reduce tension. Really, it protected appearances. Vanessa could move in easier once Lana disappeared quietly enough. The apartment Lana rented downtown was less than a third the size of the home she lost. No grand staircase, no designer kitchen, no massive windows overlooking landscaped gardens, just silence, boxes, and emptiness. The first night there, Lana sat alone on the hardwood floor, eating takeout noodles directly from the carton because she hadn't unpacked plates yet. Her wedding ring still rested in her coat pocket. She kept touching it absent-mindedly, like a missing limb. Around midnight, her phone buzzed. Cody. She stared at the screen for several seconds before answering. What? His voice sounded oddly soft. I just wanted to make sure you got settled okay. Lana closed her eyes slowly. The cruelty of it nearly broke her, because after destroying her life, he still wanted credit for kindness. I'm fine. Silence stretched between them. Then Cody sighed. I know this is hard. Lana laughed bitterly. Do you? Another silence. Then came the line that finally killed whatever hope remained inside her. You'll eventually realize this is better for both of us. Lana stared out the apartment window at the glowing city beneath her, at strangers living lives untouched by betrayal, at couples still holding hands, at women who still believed love protected them. Quietly, she whispered, one day, you're going to understand what you did to me. Cody sounded almost impatient. You're acting like I committed a crime. Lana looked down at the financial documents Rebecca had given her earlier. The shell accounts, the hidden transfers, the lies. And for the first time, she wondered if maybe he had. The next morning, Rebecca called. Her tone was sharper than usual. Lana, she said carefully, I need you to come to my office immediately. Lana's stomach tightened. Why? Rebecca paused, then said the sentence that changed everything. I think your husband may have done something far worse than cheating. The first few months after the separation nearly erased Lana Russell. Not physically, emotionally. There were mornings she woke up disoriented, reaching instinctively toward the empty side of the bed, before reality slammed back into her chest all over again. Cody was gone. The marriage was gone. And somehow, the entire world had continued moving like none of it mattered. At first, survival became mechanical. Wake up, shower, answer emails, pretend to function, sleep for 3 hours. Repeat. The small apartment downtown still didn't feel like home. The walls were too white, too quiet. Every sound echoed the refrigerator, humming footsteps upstairs, distant traffic drifting through the windows at night. Silence became dangerous because silence gave grief room to speak. Some nights, Lana sat curled on the floor beside the couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, replaying old memories like emotional self-harm. Cody dancing with her barefoot in the kitchen years ago. Cody crying during their wedding vows. Cody whispering, "You're my home." It made her physically sick now, because none of those moments had been fake to her. That was the hardest part. She had loved, honestly. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Emily Carter showed up unannounced, carrying coffee and groceries. Lana opened the door wearing oversized sweatpants and exhaustion under her eyes. Emily's face immediately softened. "Oh, honey." That almost made Lana cry harder than anything else. Kindness felt unbearable after betrayal. Emily stepped inside carefully. "You haven't answered texts in 3 days. I've been busy." Liar. Lana managed a weak smile. Emily unpacked groceries while pretending not to notice unopened mail scattered across the counter. "You need food that isn't takeout. You sound like my mother." "Well, your mother lives in Arizona and can't physically force-feed you soup, so congratulations, that responsibility falls to me now." Lana laughed quietly for the first time in weeks, and somehow that tiny laugh felt more painful than crying. Because healing always begins with guilt. Part of her still believed moving forward meant betraying the woman who had been destroyed. Emily stayed most of the evening. At one point, she finally asked the question nobody else dared ask directly. "Do you still love him?" Lana stared down at her tea silently, then nodded once. Emily looked heartbroken for her. "That's normal." "No," Lana whispered. "It's pathetic. It's human." Lana shook her head slowly. "He humiliated me, Emily. Publicly. Replaced me like I was nothing. Emily reached across the table, gently. That says everything about him, not you. Lana wanted desperately to believe that. But betrayal rewires self-worth. Every cruel word Cody had said still echoed inside her head. Predictable. Emotional. Not enough. Some nights she caught herself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, examining flaws she never noticed before. Maybe she had become boring. Maybe she stopped trying hard enough. Maybe no. Therapy was what interrupted that spiral. Rebecca Sterling had recommended someone discreet after their third legal meeting. You've spent years being emotionally manipulated, Rebecca said bluntly. You need someone who can help you separate truth from conditioning. Conditioning. The word stayed with Lana for days, because maybe that was exactly what had happened. Little by little, Cody had trained her to distrust her instincts while depending entirely on his approval. Dr. Harper's office smelled like lavender and old books. During the first session, Lana barely spoke. By the fourth, she finally admitted something out loud she had been too ashamed to confess before. I think part of me still wants him to choose me. Dr. Harper nodded gently. Of course you do. Lana's eyes filled instantly. Why? Because rejection creates obsession in people with emotional wounds, especially when love was tied to validation. Lana sat silently, then whispered, I don't know who I am without him. That sentence haunted her afterward. Because it was true. For 13 years, Lana had shaped her entire existence around Cody's ambitions, Cody's image, Cody's comfort. Somewhere along the way, she had disappeared quietly inside the role of being needed. But healing began slowly, painfully, almost invisibly. She started going to the gym again, not to become prettier, but because anger needed somewhere to go. She started sleeping slightly better, started cooking again, started taking consulting calls for small, women-owned businesses Rebecca connected her with. At first, the work terrified her. Lana had spent years downplaying her intelligence because Cody always needed to feel like the most powerful person in the room. But outside the marriage, people listened to her ideas, respected them. One afternoon, after a branding consultation, the CEO pulled Lana aside. You're exceptional at this. Lana blinked in surprise. No one's ever said that to me before. The woman frowned slightly. Well, someone should have. Lana cried in her car afterward, not from sadness, from realizing how starved she had been for genuine appreciation. Meanwhile, Cody's life looked perfect online. Perfect enough to hurt. Mutual friends reposted photos from luxury vacations, rooftop dinners, black tie events, and always Vanessa beside him. Beautiful, smiling, winning. The internet loved shiny lies. One photo nearly shattered Lana completely. Cody and Vanessa standing in front of a lake house in Aspen. Caption, New Beginnings. Lana stared at the screen so long Emily finally grabbed the phone from her hand. You need to stop torturing yourself. He replaced me so easily. Emily's expression hardened. No, he replaced access, support, loyalty, stability. Men like Cody don't know how to love deeply enough to replace people. They just consume them. Lana wanted to believe that too. But grief doesn't disappear because truth exists, especially not when loneliness still sleeps beside you every night. 3 months later, Cody texted her at 1:17 a.m. I miss talking to you. Lana stared at the message in disbelief. After everything, after humiliating her publicly, after destroying her emotionally, he still wanted emotional access to her. She didn't answer. The next day, he sent another message. I hope you're doing okay. Then, you know, none of this was easy for me either. That one made her laugh bitterly, because narcissists always wanted credit for the pain they caused. Lana blocked his number that afternoon. Her hands shook afterward, not from fear, from freedom. That night, she stood alone on her apartment balcony overlooking downtown Chicago while icy wind swept through the skyline. For the first time in months, she realized she hadn't cried all day. The pain was still there, but it no longer owned every breathing moment. Slowly, Lana began reclaiming parts of herself Cody had diminished for years. She bought fresh flowers for her apartment without worrying whether he'd call them unnecessary spending. She cut her hair shorter, started wearing red lipstick again, started laughing louder, started remembering she existed outside male approval. Then one evening, Rebecca invited her to a networking event hosted by Naomi Sinclair, founder of one of Chicago's fastest-growing consulting firms. Lana almost declined. Crowds still exhausted her, but Rebecca insisted. "Isolation is where women like you disappear," she said firmly. "Go." The event changed something. Naomi Sinclair was brilliant, commanding, impossible to intimidate. And unlike the women in Cody's world, Naomi didn't treat Lana like decorative background furniture. She treated her like someone valuable. By the end of the evening, Naomi handed Lana her card. "Call me," she said. "I think you're underestimating yourself professionally." Lana walked home through the cold city streets afterward, feeling something unfamiliar flicker quietly inside her chest. Possibility. Not healing yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Then later that night, just after midnight, her phone rang. Unknown number. Lana almost ignored it, but something made her answer. For several seconds, all she heard was breathing, then soft sobbing. Her stomach tightened instantly. "Hello?" The woman on the other end tried to speak but broke down crying instead. And then Lana heard the voice she never expected to hear again. "Lana," Vanessa whispered through shattered sobs. "He scares me now." At first, Lana thought Vanessa was drunk or unstable, or maybe calling out of guilt after months of pretending she had won something valuable. So she stayed silent for several seconds, leaning against the cold balcony railing, while Chicago glittered below her like another universe entirely. "Lana," Vanessa whispered again, voice trembling violently. "Please don't hang up." Lana closed her eyes briefly. The irony was almost unbearable. Months ago, this woman had been sleeping with her husband, while Lana cried herself to sleep, wondering what she had done wrong. Now, Vanessa sounded exactly the way Lana once had. Terrified, broken, alone. "What do you want from me?" Lana asked quietly. Vanessa inhaled shakily. "I didn't know who else to call." Lana almost laughed. "That's interesting considering you had no problem taking my husband." The words landed hard. Vanessa started crying harder. I know, okay, I deserve that." Lana remained cold, because part of her wanted Vanessa to hurt, not die, not suffer forever, but hurt enough to understand what betrayal actually cost. Rain tapped softly against the balcony windows behind her, while distant sirens echoed somewhere downtown. Finally, Lana asked, "What happened?" For several seconds, Vanessa couldn't answer. Then the truth started spilling out in fragments. At first, everything with Cody had felt intoxicating. That was the word she used. Intoxicating. "He made me feel special," Vanessa admitted weakly, "like I was different from everyone else." Lana stared out at the skyline silently, because once upon a time, Cody had made her feel that way too. Vanessa continued shakily. "He said you stopped understanding him, that you were emotionally checked out, that the marriage had already been dead for years." Classic. Lana almost wasn't surprised anymore. Men, like Cody, always rewrote history to justify cruelty. "He told me you didn't appreciate him," Vanessa whispered. "He said you made him feel trapped." Lana laughed softly under her breath. The sound carried no humor at all. "I worked 2 jobs while he finished law school." Vanessa went quiet. "I know that now." Something in her voice sounded genuinely ashamed. Lana rubbed her temple tiredly. "What exactly are you scared of?" Another silence. Then Vanessa said the sentence that made Lana's stomach tighten instantly. "He tracks my phone." Lana frowned. "What?" "He checks my location constantly. If I don't answer fast enough, he accuses me of cheating." For a moment, Lana said nothing, because suddenly memories started rearranging themselves in her head. Cody asking strange questions, wanting passwords, checking who texted during dinner. At the time, she had mistaken it for concern. Now she saw it clearly. Control. "He gets angry over little things," Vanessa continued quietly. "Like if I go out with friends without telling him every detail first." Lana's expression hardened slowly, and Vanessa exhaled shakily. "He screamed at me last week because a bartender flirted with me." A cold feeling settled inside Lana's chest. Not sympathy exactly. Recognition. Vanessa kept talking now, like once the truth started coming out, she couldn't stop it. "He goes through my messages while I'm sleeping. He accuses me of disrespecting him. He keeps saying, after everything he sacrificed for me, I owe him loyalty." Lana's jaw tightened, because Cody used nearly identical phrases during their marriage, only softer, cleaner, wrapped in charm instead of rage. "How long has this been happening?" Lana asked. Vanessa hesitated. "A while. And you still married him?" The question came out sharper than intended. Vanessa's voice cracked. "I thought if he chose me, things would be different." That sentence hit Lana unexpectedly hard, because beneath all the betrayal and resentment there it was. The delusion women are sold constantly, that if a man hurts someone else for you, somehow he'll become softer once you're the chosen one. But toxic men don't transform after commitment. They unmask. Vanessa started crying again. "He's cheating on me." Lana froze. "What I found messages on his iPad." The irony was so brutal, Lana almost couldn't process it. "How many, I don't know." Vanessa sounded sick. "At least 2 women." Lana leaned against the railing harder. Part of her wanted to feel satisfaction, vindication, justice. Instead, she mostly felt exhausted. Because Cody wasn't just unfaithful. He was hollow. A man endlessly consuming validation because nothing inside him was ever enough. Vanessa lowered her voice suddenly. "He says horrible things when he's angry." Lana's stomach tightened further. "Like what?" Another silence. Then quietly, "He told me I'm lucky he picked me." The words made Lana physically flinch, because she remembered hearing something painfully similar years ago after one of their arguments. Do you know how many women would kill to have this life? At the time, she had mistaken arrogance for confidence. Now she recognized it perfectly. Emotional ownership. Vanessa inhaled shakily. "I'm pregnant." Lana's eyes widened instantly. For several seconds, she genuinely couldn't speak. Vanessa began crying again. "I found out 3 weeks ago, and suddenly everything changed. This wasn't just karma anymore. This was a child about to be born into the middle of emotional warfare." "Does Cody know?" Lana asked, carefully. "Yes." "And?" "At first he was excited." Vanessa's voice trembled. "Then he started acting weird." "Weird? How?" "He keeps talking about image, reputation, stability." She swallowed hard. "Like the baby is some kind of business investment." Lana closed her eyes briefly. That sounded exactly like Cody. Even fatherhood filtered through performance. Vanessa suddenly whispered, "I think he hates me now." The sentence hung painfully between them, because Lana remembered the exact moment Cody started resenting her too. Not when she failed him, when she became familiar. Secure love bored men addicted to conquest. "What exactly do you want from me?" Lana finally asked. Vanessa's answer came instantly. "You survived him." Lana went still. "He never broke you completely," Vanessa continued softly. "Even after everything." Lana almost laughed at that. If only Vanessa knew how many nights she spent shattered on her bathroom floor, trying to remember who she used to be. But survival looked stronger from the outside. I don't know how to leave, Vanessa admitted. There it was. The truth beneath everything. Fear. Not just fear of losing Cody. Fear of losing herself. Rebecca's voice suddenly echoed inside Lana's head. Men, like Cody, become dangerous when control starts slipping. Has he ever hurt you physically? Lana asked carefully. No. The hesitation before the answer terrified Lana more than the word itself. Then Vanessa whispered something that made Lana's blood run cold. I started recording him. Lana straightened instantly. What I was scared, nobody would believe me. Smart girl. Too late, maybe. But smart. Vanessa's breathing shook violently. Tonight, he grabbed my arm during an argument. Rage flashed through Lana unexpectedly. Hot. Immediate. Not because she forgave Vanessa, but because she knew exactly how emotional abuse escalated. Quietly. Gradually. Until women stopped recognizing themselves. I have recordings, Vanessa whispered, of him threatening me. Lana's expression darkened slowly. Threatening. Not yelling. Not arguing. Threatening. The city lights blurred outside while her mind raced rapidly through everything Rebecca had uncovered already. The shell accounts. The manipulation. The lies. Maybe Cody was unraveling faster than anyone realized. Finally, Lana spoke. Cold. Controlled. Nothing like the broken woman he discarded months ago. Listen to me carefully. Vanessa fell silent instantly. If you want my help, I need the truth. All of it. I swear. No more protecting him. No more lying for him. No more pretending he's misunderstood. Vanessa whispered weakly. Okay. Lana stared out into the freezing Chicago night. Then asked the question that changed everything between them. Do you want revenge? Vanessa. A long silence followed, then came the honest answer. No. Vanessa whispered. I want to escape. Lana didn't trust Vanessa. Not completely. Maybe she never would. Because no matter how broken Vanessa sounded now, there had once been a time she willingly climbed into another woman's marriage and called it love. Pain did not erase accountability. But pain did make the truth easier to recognize. 2 days after the phone call, Lana agreed to meet her. Not at a cafe. Not somewhere warm and comfortable. A quiet law office Rebecca Sterling arranged after hours. Neutral ground. Safe ground. Vanessa arrived 20 minutes late, wearing oversized sunglasses despite the rain outside. The second she stepped into the conference room, Lana almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the polished woman from gala nights and luxury vacations. Vanessa looked pale, exhausted, frightened in a way makeup couldn't conceal. Her hands shook while removing her coat. Rebecca noticed immediately. So Rebecca said calmly, "Does Cody know you're here?" Vanessa swallowed hard. "No." "Good," Rebecca replied. "Let's keep it that way." Lana sat silently across the table, studying her carefully. For months, she had imagined confronting Vanessa 1,000 different ways. Screaming, humiliating her, asking why she thought destroying another woman's life was acceptable. But now, sitting across from her, Lana mostly saw fear, and somehow that felt worse. Vanessa avoided eye contact at first. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry." Lana's face remained unreadable. For which part, Vanessa flinched slightly. All of it. The room fell quiet. Rain tapped softly against the office windows, while downtown Chicago glowed silver beneath the storm clouds. Rebecca opened a folder. Let's focus on facts first. Professional. Controlled. Exactly what Lana needed right now. Vanessa nodded shakily. Then the confessions began. The affair had started nearly a year before Lana discovered it. Not months. A year. Lana physically stopped breathing for a moment. Vanessa looked sick with shame. At first, he told me you were separated emotionally, she admitted quietly. He said the marriage was basically over already. Classic Cody. Always rewriting timelines to protect his image. When did you find out that wasn't true? Lana asked coldly. Vanessa looked down. The first time I came to your house. Lana's stomach twisted violently. What? Vanessa's eyes filled instantly. You were upstairs. The room spun for a second. Lana gripped the edge of the table. You came into my house? Vanessa nodded weakly. Cody told me you were visiting family. But Lana hadn't been visiting family. She remembered that night perfectly. She had been upstairs with a migraine after hosting one of Cody's networking events. Downstairs, while she slept in her own home, her husband had brought another woman inside. The humiliation hit differently now. Deeper, almost surgical. Rebecca quietly slid a glass of water toward Lana, but she barely noticed. Vanessa kept crying softly. I should have left then. Yes. Lana answered immediately. You should have. Silence followed. Heavy. Honest. Then Vanessa reached into her bag slowly. I brought everything. She placed a thick stack of papers and a flash drive onto the table. Emails, financial records, audio recordings, screenshots. Lana stared at the pile numbly. This is months of evidence, Rebecca said carefully. Vanessa nodded. I started saving things after the wedding. Why? Lana asked. Vanessa hesitated. Because I realized he lies about everything. That sentence landed hard. Not because it surprised Lana, because she remembered the exact moment she realized it too. The death of trust is strangely physical, like suddenly discovering the floor beneath you was never solid. Rebecca began reviewing documents quickly. Her expression sharpened more with every page. This is useful, she murmured. Vanessa wiped her eyes nervously. There's more. She handed over printed screenshots of messages between Cody and multiple women. Lana forced herself to look. Young associates, event coordinators. One woman barely looked 25. The patterns were identical. Charm, flattery, emotional manipulation, promises, lies. He told all of them he felt trapped. Vanessa whispered bitterly that nobody understood him. Rebecca gave a humorless smile. Narcissists recycle scripts. Vanessa looked ashamed. I thought I was special. Lana stared at her quietly for several seconds, then finally said the truth neither woman wanted to hear. You were convenient. Vanessa's eyes filled again because deep down she already knew. Rebecca continued scanning financial records, then suddenly stopped. Wait. Both women looked up. Rebecca pulled one document closer. This consulting company. Lana leaned forward. The name hit her instantly. Russell Strategic Consulting, her maiden name. Her stomach dropped. I never opened this company. Rebecca's expression darkened. I know. Vanessa looked confused. What does that mean? Rebecca pointed toward several signatures. These were signed using Lana's information. Lana felt ice crawl down her spine. No. Rebecca looked directly at her. Cody forged your signature. The room went completely silent. Vanessa covered her mouth in horror. Lana stared blankly at the paperwork. Years ago, she trusted Cody with everything. Tax documents, joint accounts, contracts. She never imagined he would use that trust as a weapon. Rebecca flipped through additional pages carefully. He used this company to move money quietly. How much money? Lana asked faintly. Rebecca named a number. Vanessa gasped. Lana just sat frozen, because suddenly the affair seemed almost secondary. Cody hadn't merely betrayed her emotionally. He had built an entire hidden financial structure behind her back, while publicly playing devoted husband. How long? Lana whispered. Rebecca checked dates silently. At least 3 years. 3 years. meaning while Lana hosted dinner parties and defended her marriage and blamed herself for his emotional distance, Cody had already been planning an exit strategy. Vanessa looked horrified now. "I didn't know about any of this." Rebecca's tone remained cautious. "Did Cody ever discuss finances around you? No. He got angry anytime I asked questions." Lana laughed quietly under her breath. "Of course he did. Control required secrecy." Vanessa slowly looked toward Lana. "I know you hate me." Lana didn't answer immediately, because hate wasn't the right word anymore. Hatred required emotional attachment. What she felt now was colder, clearer, understanding. "You didn't steal a good man from me," Lana finally said softly. "You inherited a dangerous one." Vanessa broke down crying again. Rebecca leaned back in her chair thoughtfully. "We need to move carefully from this point forward." Lana nodded slowly. Her grief was still there, but something else was growing around it now. Focus. The kind born when pain finally transforms into clarity. Vanessa reached into her purse again. "There's one more thing." She pulled out an old leather portfolio. Lana frowned. "What is that?" Cody kept it locked in his office. Vanessa slid it across the table carefully. Inside were business cards, contact lists, client introductions, networking notes, all handwritten by Lana over years of corporate events and charity functions. Her work, her relationships, her labor, all quietly absorbed into Cody's career until people forgot she helped build any of it. Naomi Sinclair's card sat near the top. Lana stared at it silently. Vanessa whispered, "He always said none of those connections would have happened without you." The irony nearly made Lana sick. Privately, he acknowledged her value. Publicly, he erased it. Rebecca closed the folder carefully. "Well," she said calmly, "this changes everything." Vanessa looked terrified. "What happens now?" Rebecca's expression remained unreadable. "That depends on how much damage Cody Whitmore has actually caused." Lana looked down at the forged signatures again, then at the evidence scattered across the table. The affairs, the manipulation, the financial fraud, the lies. For the first time since her marriage collapsed, she no longer felt like a discarded wife, begging to understand why she wasn't enough. She felt angry, truly angry. And that was far more dangerous. Rebecca finally broke the silence. "If this evidence holds up," she said carefully, "your husband could lose far more than his marriage." Lana looked up slowly. "How much more?" Rebecca met her eyes directly. "Everything." After that night in Rebecca Sterling's office, Lana stopped seeing Cody Whitmore as a cheating husband. She started seeing him as a man carefully built out of manipulation. And once she saw it clearly, she couldn't unsee it anymore. The next few weeks became a quiet war. Not emotional, strategic. Rebecca organized everything with terrifying precision. Financial transfers, shell accounts, forged documents, suspicious transactions connected to clients at Cody's law firm. Every new discovery peeled another layer off the man Lana once worshipped. And somehow the deeper they dug, the calmer Lana became. Pain had finally stopped blinding her. Now it sharpened her. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, Lana sat inside Rebecca's office reviewing spreadsheets while Vanessa nervously paced near the windows. "She keeps calling him Rebecca," said flatly without looking up. Vanessa froze. "I'm trying not to." "You either want out," Rebecca replied calmly, "or you want reassurance. You can't have both." Vanessa looked embarrassed. Lana understood the impulse, though. Breaking emotional addiction felt like withdrawal, especially from men like Cody, who alternated affection and cruelty so unpredictably it rewired people psychologically. "What did he say?" Lana asked, quietly. Vanessa hesitated. "He says I'm overreacting." Lana almost smiled bitterly. "Of course he did. That had always been Cody's favorite weapon, not denial, distortion. You know, Lana said softly, there was a time I genuinely believed I was losing my mind. Vanessa looked toward her slowly. Because of him, Lana nodded. He'd lied directly to my face while making me feel irrational for noticing. Rebecca finally looked up from the paperwork. That's textbook coercive control. The phrase settled heavily over the room. Vanessa wrapped her arms around herself. I thought he only treated me like this because things were stressful. No. Lana answered quietly. He treats people like this because it works. That truth hurt both of them. Because once upon a time, both women had mistaken Cody's intensity for love. Now they recognized it for what it really was, possession. Rebecca slid another folder toward Lana. We traced the consulting company further. Lana opened it slowly. Inside were client invoices linked to several confidential corporate cases Cody handled at Bennett and Cole. Her stomach tightened. That's illegal, isn't it? Rebecca's expression remained carefully neutral. If these funds came from protected client accounts, potentially very illegal. Vanessa sat down hard. Oh my God. Lana stared blankly at the documents. Cody had always loved appearances, luxury watches, perfect suits, private clubs, high-status friendships. But suddenly, Lana understood something horrifying. Maybe their entire lifestyle had been partially funded through deception. The thought made her physically ill. I hosted charity dinners for these people, she whispered. I invited them into our home. Rebecca softened slightly. You didn't know. But I defended him. Rebecca leaned forward calmly. That's what manipulators count on. Good people protecting them. The room fell silent. Then Vanessa quietly reached into her purse. I found something else. Lana looked up. Vanessa slid her phone across the table. There's audio. Rebecca immediately straightened. From what? Vanessa swallowed hard. A fight 3 nights ago. Lana pressed play. At first, only muffled movement filled the room, then Cody's voice. Sharp, cold. You think pregnancy gives you leverage? Vanessa visibly flinched hearing it aloud. On the recording, her voice sounded small. I just asked where you were, and I told you to stop questioning me. Silence. Then a loud crash. Vanessa on the recording gasped softly. Rebecca's jaw tightened. Then came the sentence that changed the entire atmosphere inside the room. You should be grateful anyone wanted you badly enough to marry you. Lana stopped breathing. Because that wasn't anger. That was contempt. Pure contempt. Vanessa started crying silently beside them. Rebecca paused the recording carefully. How often does he speak to you like this? Vanessa wiped her face shakily. More lately. Lana stared down at the table, because suddenly memories resurfaced she had buried years ago. Cody criticizing her clothes subtly, mocking her emotional reactions, withholding affection after disagreements, punishing her with silence until she apologized for things she didn't even do wrong. At the time, she never called it abuse. Now she wondered how much suffering women normalized simply because no one hit them. Rebecca folded her hands calmly. This recording matters. Vanessa looked terrified. What if he finds out Rebecca's voice turned sharp instantly? He cannot know what we have yet. And that was becoming increasingly difficult, because Cody was starting to sense something shifting around him. Lana noticed it first, through mutual friends. Arthur Bennett had apparently become distant toward Cody at the firm. Several clients requested financial clarifications unexpectedly. Internal audits had quietly begun. Tiny fractures, but enough to make men like Cody paranoid. One evening, Lana left a grocery store downtown and froze when she saw Cody standing beside her car. The sight of him still triggered something instinctive in her nervous system. Fear, longing, memory, all tangled together. He looked immaculate as always, dark coat, expensive watch-controlled posture, but his eyes looked tired. almost frantic beneath the surface. "Why are you here?" Lana asked carefully. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." He stepped closer, anyway. "You've been speaking to Vanessa." Not a question. A statement. Lana kept her expression neutral. "She's your wife." "She's confused." Lana almost laughed. There it was again. Women were always emotional. Confused, difficult. Never him. Cody lowered his voice. "She's unstable right now. Pregnant women usually become unstable when their husbands cheat on them." His jaw tightened instantly. "You don't know what she's telling you." Lana crossed her arms slowly. "And what exactly should I know?" For one dangerous second, something dark flashed across his face. Then it vanished beneath charm. "That I made mistakes," he said smoothly. "But Vanessa exaggerates." Lana studied him quietly. It amazed her now how convincing he sounded, how practiced, how easy it would still be to believe him if she hadn't already lived through his lies herself. "She sounds afraid of you." Cody scoffed softly. Jesus Christ. No denial. His patience cracked slightly. "I'm under pressure right now, so you intimidate women when you lose control." He stepped closer again. "Careful, Lana." The warning in his tone chilled her instantly. Not loud, not dramatic, controlled. That was what made Cody dangerous. He knew exactly how much menace to use without appearing monstrous. Lana held her ground anyway. "You know," she said quietly, "I used to think losing you would destroy me." Something flickered across his face. "Lana. But now I think staying with you would have been worse." For the first time, Cody looked genuinely shaken. Not guilty. Threatened. Because the old Lana would have softened by now. Apologized. Doubted herself. This version didn't. His voice lowered carefully. "Whatever Vanessa's saying, she's manipulating you." Lana smiled faintly. "No," she answered softly. "That was always your talent." Then she got into her car and drove away before he could respond. But halfway home, her phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. 3 words. He checked my phone. Lana's stomach dropped instantly. Then another message appeared. "I think he knows." Before Lana could answer, a final audio file arrived. No explanation. No text. Just a recording. Hands trembling, Lana pressed play and heard Cody's voice say coldly, "If anyone tries to ruin me, I'll destroy them first." By the time Rebecca Sterling finalized the strategy, Lana barely recognized herself anymore. Not because she had become cruel, because she had stopped being afraid. That was the real transformation. Fear had ruled most of her marriage. Fear of conflict. Fear of abandonment. Fear of not being enough. Cody Whitmore built his entire power on that fear. And now, for the first time in years, Lana had none left to give him. The plan unfolded quietly over 2 weeks. Rebecca coordinated with forensic accountants. Arthur Bennett initiated internal financial reviews at Bennett and Cole, without alerting Cody directly. Vanessa continued pretending everything inside the marriage was normal, while secretly forwarding evidence. And Cody, arrogant, distracted, increasingly paranoid, walked directly into the trap because powerful men often mistake confidence for invincibility. On the morning everything collapsed, Chicago woke beneath steel gray skies and freezing rain. Lana stood in front of her apartment mirror, adjusting the sleeve of her black coat carefully. Her reflection looked different now. Sharper. Not harder, exactly. Just awake. Emily sat nearby, watching quietly. "You nervous?" she asked. Lana considered the question honestly. "A little." Emily smiled faintly. "Good. Means you still have a conscience unlike your ex-husband." That almost made Lana laugh. Almost. Rebecca had instructed her to arrive at Bennett and Cole precisely at 9:40 a.m. Not early. Not late. Controlled timing mattered. The elevator ride to the 43rd floor felt strangely calm. Months ago, entering Cody's world used to make Lana anxious, like she constantly needed to prove she deserved a place beside powerful people. Now she realized something freeing: most of them weren't more valuable than her. Just louder. The law firm buzzed with quiet tension when she arrived. Assistants moved faster than usual. Partners avoided eye contact. Something had already shifted inside the building. Arthur Bennett met her near the conference wing. The older man looked exhausted. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Lana blinked. For what? For not seeing him clearly sooner. She almost said I didn't either, but the truth felt more complicated than that. Cody had hidden himself strategically. Men like him always did. Arthur lowered his voice. He thinks this meeting is about the Chicago expansion project. Lana nodded once. Does he suspect anything? Not yet. Yet. Arthur guided her toward a smaller side office where Rebecca already waited, reviewing documents. Vanessa sat silently near the window, pale and visibly anxious beneath a cream-colored maternity dress. The second Lana entered, Vanessa stood abruptly. "He was already angry this morning," she whispered. "I think he knows something's wrong." Rebecca closed the folder calmly. "He knows he's losing control." "That's different." Vanessa wrapped her arms around herself protectively. "What if this backfires?" Rebecca's expression remained cool. "Then we adapt." Lana studied Vanessa quietly. Months ago, she would have enjoyed seeing the other woman terrified. Now, the feeling was more complicated, because Vanessa no longer looked like a victorious mistress. She looked like collateral damage. At exactly 9:58 a.m., Arthur received a text. "He's here." The room fell silent instantly. Lana felt her heartbeat once, twice. Steady. Rebecca gathered the evidence carefully into organized folders. "Remember," she said calmly, "he's going to try 3 things." Vanessa swallowed nervously. "What things, Charm?" "Blame. Intimidation." Lana almost smiled grimly. That sounded exactly like Cody. Arthur opened the conference room doors at 10 o'clock sharp. The room itself looked intimidating enough to make most people nervous: floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking downtown Chicago, polished walnut table, muted city skyline behind rain-streaked glass. Senior partners already sat waiting. So did 2 outside financial investigators. And at the far end of the table sat an empty chair directly across from the entrance. Cody's chair. A few seconds later, the doors opened again. And there he was. Perfect suit, perfect posture, perfect mask. Cody entered carrying a leather portfolio, already speaking before fully looking up. So what's so urgent that Arthur suddenly... Then he saw Lana. Everything stopped. For one brief second, genuine confusion crossed his face. Then he saw Vanessa, then Rebecca, then the investigators, and finally, fear. Tiny, almost invisible. But there. "Interesting guest list," Cody said slowly. Arthur gestured toward the empty seat. "Sit down, Cody." The atmosphere shifted immediately, because men like Cody understood power dynamics instinctively, and suddenly he wasn't controlling the room anymore. Cody sat carefully, eyes moving between them. "What is this?" Rebecca slid the first folder across the table. "A financial review." Cody glanced at it briefly, then laughed, softly. "You brought my ex-wife to a financial review." Lana met his eyes calmly. "You involved me years ago. I'm just catching up." His jaw tightened slightly. One investigator opened a document. "We've identified several irregular fund transfers connected to Russell Strategic Consulting." Cody's expression didn't change. Impressive, honestly. How concerning. Rebecca slid another page forward. "The concern increases when the company was opened under forged signatures." Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Cody finally looked directly at Lana. And for the first time since the divorce began, she saw genuine calculation behind his eyes. Not charm, not annoyance. Threat assessment. You think I forged your signature? I know you did. Cody leaned back slowly. This is absurd. Rebecca spoke before Lana could. We have handwriting analysis pending already. That caught him off guard. Only slightly, but enough. One of the senior partners shifted uncomfortably. Arthur looked furious now. We trusted you. Cody's voice sharpened immediately. You're seriously entertaining this? Then he turned toward Vanessa. You told them. Vanessa visibly flinched. There shouldn't have been anything to tell. Wrong answer. Cody's entire expression darkened instantly. There it was, the real him. Not polished, not charming, cold. You stupid, careful, Rebecca interrupted sharply. Cody stopped speaking, but the damage was done. Everyone saw it, the hostility, the contempt. The investigators exchanged a glance. Rebecca calmly opened another folder. We also have evidence of unauthorized client-related transfers. Cody scoffed. You're building fantasy narratives out of incomplete paperwork. Then he looked directly at Lana again. You're really doing this? The old Lana would have crumbled under that stare. This one didn't. You did this, she answered quietly. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Rain hammered harder against the windows now, turning the skyline beyond them blurry and gray. Then Cody made his first mistake. He smiled. Not genuinely. Manipulatively. Arthur, he said smoothly, you know exactly what this is. Arthur remained silent. This is a bitter ex-wife trying to punish me for moving on. The words hung in the room. Lana almost expected the shame to hit, but surprisingly it didn't. Because once manipulation becomes visible, it loses power. Rebecca folded her hands calmly. Actually, she said, the evidence is punishing you quite effectively on its own. Vanessa suddenly reached into her purse with trembling hands. I have something too. Cody's face changed instantly. Real panic this time. Vanessa. She pulled out her phone shakily. Don't. Too late. Vanessa pressed play. The recording filled the conference room immediately. Cody's voice. Cold. Threatening. If anyone tries to ruin me, I'll destroy them first. Silence crashed across the room afterward. One of the senior partners looked physically sick. Arthur closed his eyes briefly, like he finally understood the full scope of who Cody really was. Cody stood abruptly. This is insane. Rebecca remained perfectly calm. No, she answered softly. This is documented. Cody looked around the room desperately now, at the partners, at Arthur, at Lana, searching for control, finding none. Then finally his composure cracked completely. You think you can destroy me? He snapped toward Lana. The room froze, because suddenly everyone could see him clearly now. Not the successful attorney, not the charismatic rising partner, just an angry man unraveling publicly. And Lana realized something almost surreal in that moment. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. Arthur slowly stood. His voice sounded colder than any of them had ever heard before. Security has already been notified. The first thing Cody Whitmore lost was control of the room. The second thing he lost was his image. And for a man like Cody, that was almost worse than losing freedom. Security arrived within minutes, though nobody physically touched him. They didn't need to. The humiliation had already begun settling into the cracks of his carefully constructed persona. Senior partners refused to meet his eyes. Arthur Bennett looked like a man realizing he had unknowingly fed a predator at his own table for years. Vanessa sat trembling silently beside Rebecca. And Lana? Lana felt strangely calm. Not victorious, not happy, just clear. Like years of emotional fog had finally lifted all at once. This is ridiculous, Cody snapped, glaring around the conference room. "You're all overreacting to incomplete information." One of the investigators slid another document across the table. "These transfers originated from protected client accounts." Cody didn't even look at it. Because he already knew. Arthur's voice turned dangerously quiet. "Tell me they're wrong." Silence. That silence told everyone enough. Arthur leaned back slowly. Disappointment carved deep across his face. "I trusted you." Cody scoffed bitterly. "Oh, spare me the moral outrage, Arthur. This entire firm survives on manipulation." "That's not the same as fraud." Cody's jaw tightened. Lana watched him carefully now, almost clinically. It fascinated her how quickly charm vanished once accountability entered the room. Men like Cody always seemed powerful until consequences arrived. Then suddenly, they became desperate. He turned toward Lana sharply. "This is what you wanted." The accusation no longer pierced her. "I wanted honesty," she answered quietly. "You made this happen yourself." Cody laughed once, cold. "You think you're innocent in all this?" Vanessa visibly flinched beside her. Rebecca immediately interrupted. "Careful." But Cody wasn't listening anymore. Months of pressure were cracking through the surface now. "You spent years benefiting from my success," he snapped at Lana. "The house, the vacations, the status. And I earned every bit of it beside you." Lana shot back calmly. "No," Cody sneered. "You rode my career." The room went silent again. Not because anyone believed him, because cruelty always sounds uglier when witnesses exist. Arthur looked disgusted now. "So this is who you really are." Cody turned toward him sharply. "Oh, don't pretend you people are better than me." Rebecca calmly closed her folder. "This conversation is over." One of the investigators stood. "We'll be forwarding documentation to outside counsel." That finally broke something inside Cody. Because suddenly this wasn't scandal anymore. It was consequence. Real consequence. His expression changed rapidly, anger giving way to panic beneath the surface. "You're destroying my career over paperwork." "No," Arthur answered coldly. "You destroyed your career." Lana watched realization hit him in stages. The partnership gone. The reputation gone. The illusion gone. For the first time since she met him, Cody Whitmore looked small. Not physically, spiritually, like a man realizing admiration had always been temporary. Security escorted him out quietly, but not before he looked directly at Lana one last time. And in that moment, she saw something terrifying in his eyes. Hatred. Pure hatred. Not because she betrayed him, because she stopped protecting him. The second the elevator doors closed behind Cody, the room exhaled collectively. Vanessa burst into tears immediately. Rebecca handed her tissues calmly. Arthur remained standing near the windows, overlooking Chicago's rain-soaked skyline. "I'm sorry," he said again, softly. This time, Lana understood what he meant. Not just for the affair, for the culture that protected men like Cody, as long as they produced results. Arthur rubbed a hand over his face tiredly. There were rumors over the years. Lana looked at him. What kind of rumors associates uncomfortable around him? Aggressive behavior. Boundary issues. Vanessa looked horrified. And nobody did anything, Arthur's silence answered loudly enough, because powerful men were often tolerated until their damage became expensive. That truth made Lana sick. Later that afternoon, news started spreading through legal circles almost immediately. Not publicly yet. Quietly. The way scandals traveled among wealthy professionals. By evening, 3 people had already texted Lana asking if the rumors were true. One woman, she hadn't heard from in months, sent, "I always knew something felt wrong about him." Lana stared at the message bitterly. People always claimed clarity after danger passed. Where had that certainty been while she was drowning publicly? That night, Emily arrived carrying wine and takeout. The second she walked inside Lana's apartment, she studied her carefully. "You okay?" Lana considered lying. Instead, she answered honestly. I don't know. Emily set the food down slowly. You don't seem happy. That's because this doesn't feel good. And it didn't. Not really. Watching Cody collapse felt less like triumph and more like witnessing a building finally cave in after years of hidden structural damage. Necessary, but ugly. Emily sat beside her on the couch. You know what the difference is between you and him? Lana looked over tiredly. What you didn't enjoy, hurting people. That hit harder than expected, because despite everything, Lana still grieved the man she thought Cody once was. Or maybe the man she desperately wanted him to be. Around 11 p.m., her phone rang. Diane Whitmore. Lana stared at the screen for several seconds before answering. Hello? Diane sounded frantic. What did you do? Not. What did Cody do? What did you do? Lana almost laughed. He forged documents and committed fraud. You humiliated him publicly. He humiliated himself. Diane's breathing sharpened angrily. You could have handled this privately. There it is, Lana whispered. What? The real issue. Not the lies, not the cheating, not the abuse. Lana's voice hardened. The embarrassment. Diane fell silent. Because it was true. Families like the Whitmores cared about image first. Everything else, second. You ruined his future, Diane whispered shakily. Lana stared out at the glowing city lights beyond her apartment window. No, she answered softly. I stopped sacrificing mine to protect his. Diane hung up shortly afterward. Lana sat silently afterward for a long time. Then her phone buzzed again. This time it was Vanessa. He won't stop calling me. Lana's stomach tightened instantly. How many times? 23. Another message appeared immediately. He's outside the house. Fear crawled sharply up Lana's spine. Rebecca had warned them this could happen. Control addicts rarely accepted public humiliation peacefully. Call Rebecca. Lana typed instantly. Do not open the door. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then returned again. Finally, Vanessa sent, I'm scared. Lana grabbed her coat immediately. Emily stood. What happened, Cody? The drive through downtown Chicago felt endless. Rain smeared across the windshield while Lana's heartbeat pounded harder with every passing minute. Memories kept flashing violently through her mind. Cody smiling during wedding photos. Cody crying during vows. Cody whispering he loved her. And now, this version of him, angry, desperate, dangerous. By the time Lana arrived outside the mansion, police lights were already flashing blue against the wet pavement. Vanessa stood wrapped in a blanket near the front steps, crying, while an officer spoke quietly to her. And across the street, beside another patrol car, stood Cody, soaked from the rain, furious, broken. The second he saw Lana step out of her car, his expression twisted instantly, like somehow, even now, this was still all her fault. And then he shouted the sentence loud enough for everyone to hear. You turned her against me. Rain poured across the mansion driveway while red and blue police lights flashed against the wet pavement like a public warning, finally catching up to a private monster. You turned her against me. Cody's voice cut through the night, sharp enough to make Vanessa flinch beside the patrol car. Lana stopped walking. For a second, she simply stared at him. Not the man she married. Not the polished attorney from charity galas and corporate dinners. Just a furious man unraveling in public because women he once controlled had stopped protecting him. One of the officers stepped between them immediately. Sir, lower your voice. Cody ignored him. She's manipulating you, he shouted toward Vanessa. She's bitter and vindictive, and you're too stupid to see it. Vanessa's face crumpled instantly. Lana felt anger rise hot in her chest. Not just for herself anymore. For every moment women were called unstable simply because they stopped tolerating abuse quietly. The officer's tone hardened. "Mr. Whitmore, you need to calm down." Cody laughed harshly, soaked rainwater dripping from his coat. "You people have no idea what's happening." Actually, Lana thought silently they finally do. Vanessa hugged the blanket tighter around herself. Her mascara had smeared beneath swollen eyes, and for the first time since meeting her, Lana realized something painful. Vanessa looked exactly like Lana used to look. Emotionally exhausted, confused, still partly hoping the man hurting her would somehow become gentle again. Trauma made women mourn potential more than reality. One of the officers approached Lana quietly. "Ma'am, do you know him?" Lana almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Know him. Once upon a time, she thought she knew everything about Cody Whitmore. His favorite whiskey, the scar near his shoulder from college football, how he liked his coffee, how he squeezed her hand twice when he was nervous. Turns out, intimacy didn't guarantee truth. "Yes," Lana answered softly. "I was married to him." The officer's expression shifted immediately. Understanding. Cody saw it too. Humiliation twisted violently across his face. "She's lying to all of you," he snapped. "Both of them." Vanessa suddenly spoke through tears. "You grabbed me. I was trying to stop you from leaving. You scared me." Cody looked genuinely offended by that accusation. "No," he snapped. "You wanted drama." There it was again. The rewriting, the minimizing. Lana remembered that cycle perfectly. First denial, then blame, then victimhood. Always the same choreography. One officer quietly asked Vanessa if she wanted to file an official report. Vanessa hesitated. Fear flickered visibly across her face. And Lana understood immediately why. Because women like Vanessa knew reporting powerful men came with consequences. Smear campaigns, manipulation, retaliation. Cody saw her hesitation too, and smiled slightly. That tiny smile sickened Lana more than shouting ever could. Because even now, he still believed fear would protect him. Then Lana stepped forward carefully. "Vanessa," she said softly. Everyone looked at her. Even Cody. Lana held Vanessa's trembling gaze. "You do not owe dangerous people silence." Cody's entire expression darkened instantly. "Dangerous," he scoffed. Jesus Christ. But the officers were already watching him differently now. Not like an irritated husband, like a possible threat. And Cody realized it. The shift in power was subtle but devastating. For years he controlled narratives effortlessly because he understood something most people didn't. Confidence often sounds like truth. But now, too many pieces existed at once. The recordings, the financial fraud, the witnesses, the rage. The mask was slipping publicly. And once that happened, it became impossible to fully recover. Eventually, the officers convinced Cody to leave voluntarily for the night. Before getting into his car, he looked directly at Lana again. His voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. "You think this makes you strong?" Lana met his eyes calmly. "No," she answered quietly. "Surviving, you did." Something flickered across his face then, not guilt. Recognition. Like for the first time, he understood she no longer needed his approval to exist. That realization wounded him more deeply than exposure ever could. After Cody finally drove away, Vanessa broke down completely. Lana guided her carefully toward the house, while officers finished paperwork outside. Inside, the mansion felt cold and strangely lifeless, despite its luxury. The expensive art, the marble floors, the designer furniture, none of it felt like home. Just another stage Cody built for appearances. Vanessa sat curled on the couch, shaking violently. "I don't know what happened," she whispered. "He used to be so sweet." Lana sat across from her silently for a moment, then said the truth gently. "No. He used sweetness strategically." Vanessa looked devastated. Lana understood why. Accepting abuse hurt. Accepting manipulation hurt worse. because it forced you to question every memory attached to love. Rebecca arrived 20 minutes later, composed as always despite the storm outside. The second she entered, she assessed the room instantly. "Did he touch you tonight?" Vanessa nodded weakly. Rebecca's expression sharpened. "Anywhere bruising might appear." Vanessa hesitated before pulling back her sleeve. Finger-shaped marks wrapped faintly around her wrist. Lana felt physically sick. Rebecca immediately photographed everything. "This matters," she said calmly. Vanessa looked terrified again. "He's going to hate me." Rebecca didn't soften. "He already does. That's not the question anymore." The brutal honesty silenced the room, because deep down, all three women understood something now. Men like Cody only adored women they still controlled. The second control disappeared, resentment replaced affection frighteningly fast. Later, while Vanessa slept upstairs under medication, Rebecca insisted she take. Lana stood inside the massive kitchen, staring out at the rain. Rebecca approached quietly. "You okay?" Lana considered the question honestly. "I think this is the first time I've truly seen him." Rebecca leaned beside her against the counter. "That realization usually comes late." Lana laughed softly without humor. "I used to think I wasn't enough for him." Rebecca looked directly at her. "No. He just needs more validation than any one person can provide." The words settled heavily inside Lana's chest, because suddenly she understood something. Freeing Cody's betrayal had never been proof of her inadequacy. It was evidence of his emptiness. Her phone buzzed around 2 a.m. Diane Whitmore. Again. Lana almost ignored it, but exhaustion lowered resistance. "What now?" she answered quietly. Diane sounded different this time. Not angry. Shaken. "He's at my house." Lana went still. "And he's drunk." Rebecca immediately looked up sharply from across the kitchen. Diane's voice trembled faintly. "He keeps saying everyone betrayed him." Lana closed her eyes briefly. Even now, Cody still saw himself as the victim. Diane lowered her voice. "He said something strange." Lana's stomach tightened. "What?" "He said he never thought you'd survive without him." Silence. Rain hammered softly against the windows. And suddenly Lana remembered every subtle cruelty across 13 years. The way Cody dismissed her ambitions, mocked her emotions, made her feel small enough to stay dependent on his approval. Not accidentally, intentionally, because if she ever realized her own strength, she might leave. Or worse, she might stop worshiping him. Rebecca watched Lana carefully now. "You okay?" Slowly, Lana nodded. Then she whispered something that surprised even herself. "I think that was his biggest mistake." Rebecca frowned slightly. What was Lana looked out into the dark Chicago night where the storm was finally beginning to weaken. Believing kindness meant weakness. And somewhere across the city, alone inside his mother's house, with his reputation collapsing around him, Cody Whitmore was finally discovering what happened when the woman he underestimated stopped being afraid. 3 months later, the baby arrived during the first snowstorm of December. Lana was in the middle of reviewing consulting proposals when her phone rang just after midnight. "Vanessa." The second Lana answered, she heard panicked breathing. "My water broke." Lana was already grabbing her coat before the call ended. Somehow, life had become strange enough that she no longer questioned why she was the one Vanessa called first. Maybe trauma-created bonds logic couldn't explain. Or maybe women who survived the same fire recognized each other afterward. The streets of downtown Chicago glittered white beneath fresh snowfall as Lana drove toward the hospital. Christmas lights reflected across icy sidewalks, while exhausted people hurried through the cold, carrying shopping bags and coffee cups. Ordinary life. Meanwhile, inside her chest, emotions tangled together so tightly she could barely separate them anymore. Vanessa had once helped destroy her marriage. Now, Lana was racing through a snowstorm to help her deliver a baby. Life was cruelly ironic sometimes. The maternity ward smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion when Lana arrived. Vanessa sat curled in a hospital bed, gripping the rails tightly while contractions ripped through her every few minutes. The second she saw Lana, relief flooded her face so intensely it almost hurt to witness. "You came." Lana moved toward her quietly. "Of course I came." Vanessa started crying immediately. Pregnancy had softened her physically, but hardened her emotionally. The polished confidence she once carried around like armor was gone now. In its place stood honesty, fear, humility, realness. Lana handed her water carefully. "Where's Cody?" The question darkened the entire room instantly. Vanessa looked away. "He's been calling nonstop, but I told the nurses not to let him in." Lana studied her silently. That decision could not have been easy. No matter how toxic someone became, untangling yourself emotionally from a person you once loved always hurt, especially while carrying their child. Vanessa inhaled shakily during another contraction. "He keeps saying I'm punishing him." Lana almost smiled sadly. Cody had always mistaken boundaries for cruelty whenever they inconvenienced him. Rebecca arrived an hour later, carrying coffee and legal paperwork because apparently she never truly stopped working. "You look terrible," she told Lana affectionately. "Thank you." "You're welcome." Vanessa laughed weakly through exhaustion. It was the first genuine laugh Lana had heard from her in months. Strangely, it made the room feel lighter. Around 4 a.m., Cody appeared anyway. Of course he did. The second Lana saw him storming down the maternity hallway, arguing with hospital staff, every muscle in her body tightened instinctively. He looked worse than she remembered. Not physically destroyed, but diminished. The confident glow he once carried everywhere had faded into bitterness and exhaustion. Public scandal had consequences. His law license was under review. Multiple investigations remained ongoing. Former friends stopped returning calls. And beneath all of it, Cody still seemed unable to understand why his life was collapsing. "Sir," the nurse repeated firmly, he specifically requested no visitors. "That's my child." His voice echoed sharply down the hallway. Patients nearby turned uncomfortably. Then Cody saw Lana standing outside Vanessa's room. Instant hatred flashed across his face. "You." Lana stayed calm. "Hi, Cody. What are you doing here?" The irony almost made her laugh, supporting the woman he abandoned emotionally while pretending to be the victim. "You shouldn't be yelling in a maternity ward," she answered quietly. Cody ignored that completely. "She's turning my child against me before he's even born." Lana's expression hardened. "She's protecting herself." "Oh, please," he scoffed bitterly. "You've poisoned her against me since the beginning." Lana took a slow breath. "No, Cody. Your behavior did that." For a moment, he just stared at her. And suddenly, Lana realized something surreal. He genuinely believed his own version of events. In his mind, he wasn't abusive. He was misunderstood, not manipulative, unappreciated, not cruel, provoked. That level of delusion frightened her more than anger ever had. Cody lowered his voice suddenly. "Can we talk alone?" Every instinct screamed, "No." But Lana nodded carefully toward the empty waiting area nearby. 5 minutes later, they sat across from each other beneath harsh fluorescent lights while snow drifted softly outside hospital windows. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Cody leaned forward tiredly. "You look different." Lana almost smiled faintly. "So do you." That wasn't entirely an insult. There was no polish left now, no charm coating the sharp edges, just a tired man unraveling beneath consequence. Cody rubbed his jaw slowly. "I never thought things would end up like this." Lana stared at him quietly. "That's because you never believed consequences applied to you." His expression tightened. "You think you know everything now? No, Lana answered honestly. I think I finally know enough. Silence stretched between them. Then Cody surprised her. I loved you. Past tense again. Lana noticed. I know you think that, she said softly. Something flickered across his face. Anger, maybe. Or shame. You think I'm some monster. Lana looked toward the snowy parking lot outside. Yosh. I think you're a man who needed constant admiration more than you needed integrity. The words landed hard. Because deep down, Cody knew they were true. He laughed bitterly. You always did think you were smarter than everyone. No, Lana answered calmly. You just needed me to think I was smaller than you. That silence lasted longer. Heavy, painfully honest. Finally, Cody looked directly at her. You know what your problem is. Lana waited. You mistake kindness for strength. For the first time in months, Lana genuinely smiled. Small, sad, certain. No, she whispered. You did. Something in his expression cracked then. Not dramatically, quietly. Like a man realizing too late, he fundamentally misunderstood the person he spent 13 years beside. Before either could speak again, a nurse appeared near the hallway entrance. Vanessa's asking for Lana. Cody stood instantly. I'm the father. The nurse remained calm, and she asked for Lana. The devastation on Cody's face was immediate. Not because of the rejection itself, because control had fully disappeared now. Lana stood slowly. For one brief second, she almost pitied him. Then she remembered every night she cried beside a man who made her feel impossible to love correctly. The pity vanished. Before walking away, Cody spoke quietly behind her. She would have never survived this without you. Lana paused, then looked back over her shoulder. No, she answered softly. She survived because she finally stopped protecting you. An hour later, Vanessa gave birth to a little girl. Tiny, perfect, furious at the world immediately. Lana stood near the hospital bed, watching Vanessa cry while holding her daughter for the first time. I don't want her growing up afraid to disappoint men, Vanessa whispered weakly. Emotion tightened painfully in Lana's chest. Because maybe that was where healing truly began. Not in revenge, not in justice, in refusing to pass suffering forward. The next morning, while Vanessa slept with the baby against her chest, Lana noticed paperwork lying beside the hospital bed. Birth certificate forms. Under father's last name, the space remained blank. Lana frowned slightly. Vanessa looked up tiredly. I'm giving her my name. Lana blinked. What? Vanessa looked down at her daughter, quietly. She deserves a fresh start. The decision hit Lana unexpectedly hard. Not because of Cody, because it symbolized something bigger. Women choosing themselves after years of shrinking. Later that afternoon, while Lana stood alone, grabbing coffee from the hospital cafe, her phone buzzed. Naomi Sinclair. Lana answered immediately. Hey. Naomi's voice sounded unusually excited. I just finished reviewing your proposal. Lana frowned slightly. And? A pause. Then how do you feel about running an entire consulting division? Lana froze completely. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel terrifying. It felt open. 6 months later, Lana Russell stood barefoot in the middle of her new condo, holding a paint sample called Winter Ivory, while sunlight spilled across hardwood floors that belonged entirely to her. No joint mortgage. No manipulation hidden behind expensive gifts. No man silently deciding whether she deserved to exist comfortably inside her own life. Just peace. The condo overlooked downtown Chicago through enormous glass windows, the skyline glowing gold beneath late spring sunlight. It wasn't as massive as the house she once shared with Cody, but it felt warmer somehow. Real. Every piece of furniture inside had been chosen by Lana alone. No criticism. No permission, no subtle comments about wasting money. Emily walked into the kitchen carrying champagne. I still can't believe you bought this place yourself. Lana smiled softly. Neither can I. And that was true. Some mornings she still woke up startled by her own freedom. The consulting division Naomi Sinclair offered had changed everything. At first, Lana doubted herself constantly. Years of emotional conditioning didn't disappear overnight. Every boardroom meeting still triggered old insecurities Cody planted carefully inside her. Too emotional, not strategic enough, too soft. But Naomi never allowed self-doubt to survive long. During one presentation after Lana brilliantly negotiated a difficult corporate restructuring deal, Naomi leaned over afterward and said quietly, "Do you know what your ex-husband's biggest mistake was?" Lana sighed tiredly. "Existing." Naomi laughed. "He taught you to underestimate yourself." That sentence stayed with Lana for weeks, because it was true. Cody always benefited from her staying uncertain. Confident women became harder to control. Now, clients requested Lana specifically. Women approached her after speaking events, asking questions that sounded painfully familiar. How did you leave? How did you rebuild financially? How did you stop blaming yourself? At first, Lana struggled answering, not because she lacked wisdom, because healing wasn't linear enough for inspirational speeches. Some days, she still grieved. Some days, certain songs still hurt. Some nights, loneliness still arrived unexpectedly. But the difference was this. Loneliness no longer tempted her back toward suffering. One Friday evening after a networking event, Edna sat across from Vanessa at a small Italian restaurant near the river, while baby Lily slept peacefully inside a stroller beside them. Their relationship remained complicated. It probably always would. You couldn't erase betrayal entirely. But strangely, honesty had built something more stable than competition ever could. Vanessa looked healthier now, still healing, still exhausted from motherhood, but lighter somehow, less performative, less desperate for validation. "I got offered a marketing position today," Vanessa said softly. Lana smiled. "That's amazing." Vanessa looked down at her wine glass. "A year ago, I thought being chosen by a powerful man meant I'd won at life." Lana stayed quiet, because she understood that illusion too well. Vanessa shook her head faintly. "Now I think peace is probably the real luxury." That sentence hit Lana harder than expected. Outside the restaurant windows, Chicago glittered beautifully against the dark water while traffic drifted endlessly through the city. And for the first time in years, Lana realized she wasn't emotionally surviving anymore. She was living. Cody, meanwhile, had nearly disappeared socially. The investigations continued quietly behind closed doors. His law license remained suspended pending review, several clients filed civil complaints, and most of his former social circle distanced themselves carefully. Not because wealthy people suddenly developed morals, because scandal was contagious. One afternoon, Emily forwarded Lana a photo from a charity gala. Cody stood alone near the bar, looking older somehow, smaller, invisible. The caption from someone attending simply read, "Haven't seen him out in forever." Lana stared at the image for several seconds, then closed it without emotion. That surprised her. Months ago, she would have felt rage, vindication, grief. Now, mostly nothing. And maybe that was the real ending of love. Not hatred, indifference. A week later, Lana returned home after work and found an envelope sitting with the concierge downstairs. No return address. But she recognized Cody's handwriting instantly. Her stomach tightened reflexively. Old instincts died slowly. For several minutes, she considered throwing the letter away unopened. Instead, she carried it upstairs quietly. Rain tapped softly against the windows, while dusk settled over the city in muted blue shadows. Lana sat at her kitchen island, staring at the envelope. 13 years together, reduced to paper. Finally, she opened it. The letter inside was 4 pages long. Apologies, excuses, memories, regret. Cody wrote about losing himself, about pressure, about mistakes. He wrote that no one ever understood him the way Lana did, that she had been the best part of his life. And near the end came the line that almost made her laugh out loud. "I never realized your value until you were gone." There it was, the tragedy of selfish people. They only recognized loyalty after exhausting it completely. Lana folded the letter slowly, then walked toward the fireplace beside the windows. For a brief second, she remembered the woman she used to be, the version of herself who would have cried reading this, who would have seen hope in regret, who might have confused apology with transformation. But that woman no longer existed. Lana struck a match calmly and watched the letter burn. The flames curled through Cody's words, slowly turning guilt and nostalgia into ash. No dramatic tears followed, no breakdown, just quiet closure. Later that evening, Emily arrived carrying takeout and immediately noticed the ashes inside the fireplace. "Please tell me that wasn't important mail." Lana smiled, faintly. "Not anymore." Emily studied her for a moment, then said softly, "You finally look free." The words settled deeply inside Lana's chest. Free. Not healed perfectly, not untouched, but free. That night, Lana stood alone on her balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline, while warm wind drifted through the city below. Somewhere out there, women were still crying beside men who made them feel impossible to love correctly. Somewhere out there, women were shrinking themselves to keep relationships alive. Somewhere out there, kindness was still being mistaken for weakness. Lana understood now that survival wasn't the same as living, and love that required self-abandonment was never love at all. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Naomi. "Ready for tomorrow's interview." Lana smiled. Tomorrow she would officially announce the launch of a new consulting initiative, helping women rebuild financially after divorce and emotional abuse. A full-circle moment she never could have imagined while crying on her apartment floor months earlier. Before heading back inside, Lana looked out across the glowing city one last time, then quietly whispered the truth that finally set her free. "I was never hard to love. He was just incapable of loving anyone correctly." Behind her, warm light spilled across the condo she built herself. Ahead of her, the future waited, untouched. And for the first time in a very long time, Lana walked toward it without fear. 1 year later, Lana Russell stood backstage beneath warm theater lights while hundreds of women filled the downtown Chicago auditorium beyond the curtain. The event banner stretched across the stage in elegant silver lettering, "Rebuilding After Betrayal," hosted by Russell and Sinclair Consulting. Lana adjusted the microphone clipped near her collar carefully while organizers rushed around preparing the next segment. Through the curtain, she could hear soft conversation echoing across the audience. Women, mothers, divorce survivors, executives, young women barely beginning adulthood, some polished, some visibly broken, all searching for permission to believe life could continue after devastation. Naomi approached holding a tablet. "You nervous?" Lana smiled softly. "A little." "Good," Naomi answered. "Means your heart still works." Lana laughed quietly. That still felt strange sometimes. Laughing easily, breathing easily, living without waiting for someone else's approval. Outside the theater windows, the Chicago skyline glowed gold beneath early autumn sunlight. The city no longer felt haunted by memories of Cody. It belonged to her again. That was healing too, reclaiming spaces that once hurt. The moderator stepped onto stage first, introducing Lana's story to the audience carefully but respectfully. No sensational headlines, no gossip, just truth. A woman betrayed publicly who rebuilt privately. When Lana finally walked onto the stage, applause filled the auditorium immediately. Not because she was famous, because survival recognized survival. For a brief second, emotion tightened painfully in her chest. A year ago, she could barely get herself off the bathroom floor some mornings. Now women looked at her like proof healing was possible. The moderator smiled warmly. Lana, what's the first thing you wish women understood after betrayal? Lana looked across the crowd slowly. So many faces, so many hidden stories. Then she answered honestly, that losing someone who mistreated you is not failure. The room fell silent. Lana continued softly. I think a lot of women stay in toxic relationships because we confuse endurance with love. We think sacrificing ourselves proves loyalty. Several women in the audience visibly nodded. Lana inhaled carefully. But love should never require you to disappear. The applause afterward felt emotional instead of performative. Real. Later, during the Q&A session, a young woman stood near the back, clutching the microphone nervously. How do you stop feeling like you weren't enough? The question pierced straight through Lana's chest because once upon a time, she asked herself that same thing every night. She smiled gently. You realize eventually that healthy people don't destroy others to feel valuable. Tears filled the young woman's eyes instantly. Lana understood, because some truths arrived like oxygen after years underwater. After the event ended, women lined up for nearly an hour just to speak with her briefly. One whispered, "Your story made me leave." Another admitted quietly, "I thought I was crazy until tonight." Lana hugged several of them before leaving. Not because she had all the answers, because sometimes being witnessed mattered more than advice. Outside the theater, cool autumn wind swept through the city while black SUVs waited near the curb. Vanessa stood nearby, holding Lily's tiny hand. The little girl immediately ran toward Lana, smiling. Aunt Lana laughed softly and scooped her up instantly. For a moment, Vanessa simply watched them quietly. The bitterness between them had softened over time into something complicated but genuine. Not perfect friendship. Something stronger. Truth survived together. Vanessa smiled faintly. She watched your interview online yesterday. Lily nodded proudly. Mommy says you're brave. Emotion caught Lana unexpectedly off guard. Because there had once been a time she believed bravery meant staying. Now she understood better. Sometimes bravery meant leaving first. Naomi approached carrying folders from the event. You realize half this city wants to hire you now. Lana rolled her eyes playfully. You say that every conference, because it keeps being true. Russell and Sinclair Consulting had expanded faster than anyone expected. What started as corporate consulting evolved into specialized financial recovery programs, helping women rebuild after divorce, coercive control, and financial abuse. Ironically, the same skills Cody once benefited from had become the foundation of Lana's independence. That felt poetic somehow. As the evening settled across Chicago, Lana eventually drove home alone through glowing city streets lined with amber trees and restaurant lights. Peace still felt unfamiliar sometimes. Not boring. Sacred. At a red light downtown, she glanced absent-mindedly toward a restaurant patio crowded with wealthy professionals laughing over cocktails. For half a second, an old memory surfaced, her former life beside Cody. The galas, the dinners, the performance. And suddenly she realized something startling. She no longer missed any of it. Not the status, not the mansion, not even the marriage itself. Because once illusion shattered completely, nostalgia lost power too. Her phone buzzed while she waited at another light. Emily. Did you cry dramatically on stage like a proper emotional icon? Lana laughed out loud. No. But Naomi almost did. That counts. The warmth of ordinary friendship filled the car softly. No manipulation, no performance. Just love that didn't require shrinking herself. When Lana arrived home, the city skyline shimmered beautifully beyond the windows of her condo. She kicked off her heels near the doorway and walked barefoot across hardwood floors, glowing under soft golden light. This life wasn't perfect. Healing never erased scars completely. Some nights still hurt unexpectedly. Certain songs still carried ghosts. But pain no longer controlled the architecture of her future. That mattered. Near midnight, while reviewing tomorrow's meeting schedule, Lana noticed an email request forwarded through her assistant. Sender, Cody Whitmore. She stared at the screen silently. The message itself was brief. I know I don't deserve a response, but I'd like to apologize properly someday. Lana read it twice, then calmly closed the email without answering. Not out of anger, because closure no longer required his understanding. That realization felt like freedom in its purest form. She walked toward the balcony afterward, wrapping a sweater around herself against the cool wind. Below her, Chicago pulsed with endless movement and light. Somewhere out there, Cody still existed, still living with consequences, still chasing pieces of validation that would never fill whatever emptiness existed inside him. But for the first time in 13 years, his existence no longer shaped hers. And that more than revenge, more than justice, more than exposure, was the real victory. Lana closed her eyes briefly, letting the cold night air brush against her skin. Then softly, almost like a prayer to the woman she used to be, she whispered, "Being loved should never cost your dignity." The city glittered endlessly around her, alive, open, full of possibilities untouched by betrayal. And somewhere deep inside the woman, Cody once believed he controlled forever, finally understood the truth. Kind women were never weak. They were simply dangerous once they stopped begging to be chosen. Sometimes the hardest lesson in life is realizing that love alone cannot save a relationship built on manipulation, disrespect, and emotional control. Lana spent years believing that being patient, loyal, and forgiving would eventually make Cody love her the way she deserved. But kindness is not supposed to be a sacrifice people bleed from endlessly. Real love does not require someone to shrink themselves just to keep another person comfortable. One of the most painful things about betrayal is that it makes good people question their own worth. It convinces them they were not enough when the truth is often much simpler and much sadder. Some people are incapable of valuing what they already have. They chase validation, control, and admiration because nothing inside them is ever truly healed. But this story is not really about revenge. It's about awakening. It's about a woman discovering that losing the wrong person can sometimes save your life. Lana did not become powerful because Cody suffered. She became powerful because she finally stopped measuring her value through someone else's ability to love her correctly. And maybe that's the real healing, not forgetting the pain, not pretending it never happened, but reaching a point where the betrayal no longer defines your future, where peace feels more important than being chosen, where self-respect becomes stronger than loneliness. If there's one thing this story reminds us, it's this: a kind woman is never weak. She is simply dangerous the moment she realizes she deserves better. If this story touched you emotionally, let me know in the comments. Would you have helped Vanessa after everything she did? Or would you have walked away? And if you enjoy emotional stories about healing betrayal, karma, and powerful new beginnings, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next story. Your support truly means everything.